Okay, we are on. Welcome, everybody. This is the regular meeting of the Darien Parks and Recreation Commission, March 20th, 2024. Calling the meeting to order with a quorum at 7:35. I would like to extend a special welcome to our ex officio member and first selectman, John Zagrodsky. He's staying for, I think, part of the meeting. I don't think we're going to have him stay for the whole thing, although he's, of course, more than welcome to do so.
Let me know when my sentence ends.
Come on. Okay. So first order of business is we'll go through the minutes from last month. Kathy and I have both reviewed them and made some edits and cleanup. So does anybody have any other changes that you would like to propose? No? Everybody's good? Okay, then if I could have a motion. Mary Louise, second. Okay, Susan, and all in favor? Excellent. Oh, add Kim. You are right. I'm sorry. Kim Kiner needed to be added as an attendee. You're absolutely right. Okay, let's redo that. Kim, she was remote. She was on the Zoom. Kim from the RTM Parks and Rec Committee, but she was there. Thank you for reminding me, Adele. Okay, should we revote based on that?
So I move to approve them with the amendment.
Okay, Kathy. Second. Susan. Okay, all in favor. Thank you, Adele. Okay, you got that right. It's out of the way. All right, next we have public comment. I will note this evening that we do not have any staff. Do a little bit of double duty here, so bear with me. Chris, you said you would do the timer for me, so we'll be taking public comment. Limit comments, please. We'll give 3 minutes. We'll be generous tonight. You need to stand, state your name and your address if you would like to speak. Hands? Right here in front?
Sure. Where should I stand? Sit? Or?
No, standing is better.
How about over here?
Is that good? TV 79?
Yeah.
He's got a mic right there.
Turn it around.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Mathis. Hi to everyone whose face is familiar. I am actually the new executive director of the Darien Land Trust. My address is 384 Hollow Tree Ridge Road in Darien. We, like Parks and Rec, oversee public access property. Public access properties present a unique challenge, balancing the ecological needs of the landscape with programming needs of public use. We steward over 45 acres of public use land across varied ecosystems, from wetland to upland forests and meadows. Public use of land located in coastal areas presents the highest level of management concern. The landscape is fragile and the ecosystems are complex. The design of the Weed Beach project is directly tied to the health of all nearby properties because the ecosystems are linked. The Land Trust has 3 properties within a short walking distance of where we are speaking. In fact, if I look out the window, there's one there are 2 up the street on near water. The Weed Beach project can be a model of how best to balance the ecological needs of the land with public use. The Land Trust, in collaboration with other experts, including Pollinator Pathways, the Invasive Plant Working Group, and other experts, can positively affect the outcome of the redesign. So we vote for collaboration. We offer our knowledge and expertise to the Parks and Rec Commission in their redesign efforts. Let this project be a model of success, both financially and ecologically, for coastal public across properties along the Connecticut coastline and including Great Island. Thank you.
Juliet?
Good evening, Juliet Kane, 81 Locust Hill Road. I understand the Weed Beach project is on hold for cost reasons, but I did see an agenda item requesting funds, and I would like to ask really why it's appropriate to be asking for funds when there are still environmental issues that haven't been resolved, as was mentioned, and there's no new plan yet, and the new director hasn't yet started. And John, you were quoted in the paper last week as saying, I can confirm that there are very few decisions where 100% of the people are satisfied with every aspect of that decision. And while I understand the sentiment, I think the statement minimises the issues that are raised by the project. And these issues go way beyond sort of liking or not liking, and they speak to the fundamental need to protect this coastal setting. And remember, it was extreme flooding that was the reason why the town bought the property in the first place. With a fragile coastline, at risk of erosion from more frequent and more severe storms and sea level rise. And ecosystems, as Elizabeth mentioned, essential for healthy oil, or healthy soil, air and water quality generally in wetlands and the Sound. So I have a few suggestions. First, adopt a long-term plan that over time will replace and increase the tree canopy that was removed at the start of the project, spreading the cost over coming budget cycles and providing a diverse selection of tree types and ages and a woodland that would be the healthiest solution, protecting soil and water quality, mitigating erosion and flooding, and still providing recreational space. Spread the project over a longer period so that capital and maintenance costs are more manageable, and leave room for other items like a porous footpath. Tarp the Phragmite to eradicate them instead of treating them with glyphosate, or simply manage them so they don't spread further. They do currently provide wildlife shelter, and their root system, as you're aware, does hold soil in place. Don't fill in any wetlands, let them continue to be the water containment and cleansing system that they are. And instead of using chemical pre-emergence and nitrogen on any new lawn, plant clover cover. It's a natural nitrogen fixer that could strangle weeds. And I want to quote to you from the town's own educational publications, which advise, avoid using chemicals near waterways and storm drains. Limit your use of pesticides. Use biological controls wherever possible. Reducing turfed areas, lawn, in favour of native plantings will improve fertiliser and pesticide demands and improve stormwater quality. Nutrients such as phosphorus and nitrogen, which are present in lawn fertilisers, can cause overgrowth of algae, resulting in oxygen depletion in waterways. Impervious surfaces increase the variety and amount of pollutants carried into streams, rivers and lakes. These pollutants can harm fish and wildlife, foul drinking water supplies and make recreational use unsafe and unpleasant. So I'm reading from the town's own publications. So I urge you to adopt an approach that's consistent with the town's own advice and partner with the Land Trust and the Pollinated Pathway to get this right and manage costs. And then yes, some people will like it and some people won't, but they can be assured that it poses no environmental, ecological or health risks. Thank you.
Jim.
I'm Jim Furlong. I live at 23 Waverly Road. I also serve as the current president of the Noroton Bay Property Owners Association. Just wanted to share some of our views on this project. We've been monitoring the project since becoming aware of it in late 2024. We were present at the Planning and Zoning meeting in late November when the project was still open for public comment. And we were of the opinion at the conclusion of that meeting that there weren't any outstanding concerns that have gone unanswered at the meeting. We're aware the project as designed has been approved to proceed by the Parks and Rec Department as well as by Planning and Zoning and the Board of Selectmen. We're also aware that the bids came in a few weeks back and they were significantly higher than the budget, which is why the project is suddenly stalled. Clearly, there is a bunch of concerns on this project. We've heard it in some stated already at this meeting, and I think as you're never going to get a conclusion that everyone is in favor of, and that's just kind of par for the course here. But what we're not hearing a lot of are the things that I'm hearing from a number of residents who are in favor of the project. They like it. They want to see it come to fruition. They want to see it closed. So I just want to kind of give a perspective from the Noroton Bay Board. We, from the beginning, thought we would only have objections to the project if the end results were to have net negative impact on the aesthetic aspect of Weed Beach Park, as seen from Nearwater Lane, a net negative impact on flooding potential to the Norotan Bay neighborhood, or a net negative impact to security in the Norotan Bay neighborhood. Regarding the aesthetic impacts, here's my request now that we have public comment open again. What we would like to do with the aesthetic aspects is to review the final detailed plans for border plantings and be able to have some communication with Parks and Rec to see if we can find a solution that is acceptable to the neighborhood and falls within the budget constraints of the project. Regarding flooding potential, we're relying on the conclusions reached by the professional engineers hired by the town. Okay, we're relying on that. With that said, there are still a number of concerns that we're hearing from neighbors, and we would very much appreciate the opportunity to meet with Weston and Sampson to quell any remaining concerns from individual homeowners. And regarding security, we request that the town's final design will allow space for the potential erection of a security fence along Nearwater Lane if such a fence is deemed necessary in the future due to increased security event frequency. And that's kind of the perspective of the board. There are certainly individual homeowners in the neighborhood who have other concerns, but from the board, those are kind of the three areas that we're really focused on. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I read in glasses, so bear with me. Natalie Tallis, 34 Baywater Drive. I'm going to distinguish myself. I'm a renter. I'm not a property owner in the Bay, so I am approaching this issue from kind of outside of nearby neighborhoods. As has already been said, this project has been stalled because of funding. As a result of that, our first selectman sent 2 projects to the commission, which I'd like to address this evening. The first project was a redesign of the area that was clear-cut, inadvertently, accidentally, off of Nearwater abutting the bay. Once we had a tree canopy and it was filled with vegetation, it wasn't pretty. Now there is an area, I know when you went down, John, you didn't see water pooling, but those of us who walk by it, water pools. We hear noises have increased, wildlife has been displaced, there are wind tunnels, and obviously things that you don't see like air pollution have increased. The area is a potential breeding ground for mosquitoes and insects. I know somebody from Parks and Recs had told you that wasn't the case. I've done a deep dive, and these insects will find still water and will breed. So we are hoping that a replanting plan, a robust replanting plan, is forthcoming. And obviously with the planting season, it'll need to be done soon, and ideally before early June. So I also wanted you to, I looked at the agenda and want to ask you not to vote on funding or extending the current contract with Weston and Sampson until the commission has a fixed budget and a clear idea of what you want to do with the property. Significant environmental issues have been raised about the plan, and those need to be revisited along with a more in-depth look at unintended consequences of the overall environmental health of the town. We can't keep looking at all of the town's beautiful properties as one-offs. They need to be looked at holistically. I know some in this commission and in town are eager to create something on the Short Lane project. It's been there for now 10 years, but with only 10% of land in Darien identified as open space and less than 3% considered undeveloped or vacant, maybe we don't need to build anything. Instead, maybe we can restore what's there, including the wetlands, and instead of spending money on building structures, focus our efforts on protecting the coastline that's there. Weed Beach and our other town parks and properties should be considered through a single lens. When we discuss developing or creating a new space, we should consider what we have and what we need, not just looking again at a one-off, what can we do with this 4.9 acre spot. I didn't see anything in the applications or in any of the public hearings that gave a comprehensive look
It's time, Chris.
I'll just finish this sentence, if that's okay, at other features of Wheat Beach and how the Short Lane property would complement and enhance what's already there. We need a robust environmental study that meets the highest level of environmental standards.
It's time.
Regardless of exemptions because of how the project
That's time.
is funded. Thank you. The public should have maybe a little more time
That's
for
time.
such an important issue.
I'm Bob Weaver. I live at 21 Baywater Drive, just around the corner. I just want to add one comment. I originally had one concern about the development plan. I thought that the master plan for the acreage looked quite attractive, but I was very worried about flooding in the bay. And it's not the case that the engineers studied the bay and said it's okay. They said, based on what we've done, we think it ought to be okay. And so to reiterate what Jim said, we'd very much like to have an opportunity to talk to those engineers to really understand it, because my eyes tell me, and my experience tells me, that the flooding already is worse than it was before this whole area was denuded, and you can see it. The second concern that I've got is that the clear cutting's happened. It looks awful, and there doesn't seem to be any plan for doing anything about it. So we've got kind of a half-done, now unfunded job that is a blight on Roten Bay and frankly on the beach too. So I look forward to something happening to kind of restore the aesthetics of the area that's been damaged and the wetlands that have been disturbed. Thanks.
Anybody else? Going once, going twice. Jan?
Thank you all. I would just
Can you
like
state
to-
your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Jan Raymond. I live at 11 Waverly Road. I would just like to say how important I think what a lot of the people have said before me, and that is thinking about what's going to happen next before we move forward, particularly when we're doing things like taking down trees and changing the essential being of what this area is. I also would like to suggest that the Park and Rec, at some point in the very near future, look at all the parks that we have. I think Great Island changes everything into what we think about as parks, how we can use them. And I think everything has to be looked at as a whole. We have a number of different parks doing different things, whether it's Woodland Park, whether it's Highland Park. All these things are different, and I would like to see some kind of use study done of these parks so that we can better understand what we have, what we need to fill in order for the town to be able to effectively use each of the projects, each of the properties that we own. And I have to say, going back in time for forever, I requested this back in the 90s. We do not know how a lot of the properties are used and whether or not they're used in conjunction or effectively for what we're paying to have them cared for. So I hope you all make some good decisions in terms of the environment. And one other thing I'd like to add is FEMA has given a passing grade to a lot of this, but I would like to say that FEMA sometimes doesn't get it right. And my example of that would be that after Hurricane Sandy, I had to raise my house to 15 feet from where it was. It was 56 inches. Now, people who are building need to meet the criteria of 16 feet, which tells you something about what's happened in a very short period of time. When will it be 17 feet? I don't know. But I do know that much of the flooding, combined with the heavy rains we've had, in which I think there's every reason and every knowledge, I just heard it from a man from Rutgers today, we can expect considerably more heavy rainstorms. And that, combined with the flooding, is what creates the flooding in this area. And I don't think that that's ever going to change or get better. So I hope you will give serious consideration to these facts that I've raised and to the things that other people have said. And I hope that we will be able, as Norotan Bay, to participate a bit more in the planning going forward. Thank you.
Anybody else? We're gonna talk about the budget now?
Yeah, there's a question. I'd like to,
Yes.
Adele Khan of Parks and Rec. Hi. Adele Khan of RTM Parks and Rec. I'm going to change gears. I'd like to give you a report on the budget as it stands for the capital projects, as the Board of Finance is sending it to the RTM, and the RTM will be voting on May 13th. And so let me update you a bit. This is my report to the RTM, so if you don't mind, I'm going to read it. It's appropriation from the Reserve Fund for Capital and Non-Recurring Expenditures, Parks and Recreation, $276,100. The RTM committee has followed the Parks and Recreation Commission's budget process beginning in October and November 2023. Our committee participated in the Commission's Parks Tour in November, which highlighted many of the capital projects in this request. Cherry Lawn, $275,200 was requested to repave the driveway at the Nature Center to address the deteriorating conditions of the driveway, and included the repaving of the parking lot next to the Nature Center, as well as the curbing and sidewalk in front of the building. $75,000 was approved by the Board of Finance for patching potholes, curb repair, and related millwork. $220,000 was deferred to 25-26. $9,000 was requested to repair the retaining wall near the overflow parking lot. This request was removed from the capital budget, and $2,600 was added to the Parks and Rec operating budget. $8,500 was requested for a traffic study to address potential traffic and parking issues. The study would provide insights into whether additional parking or changes to the entrance egress are necessary. The traffic study was deferred to 25-26. $22,000 was requested to address the cracks in the basketball court. This project will be paid for with ARPA funds. Actually, the the Parks and Rec Department has benefited from about 30% of the ARPA funds for the town. Baker Park, $11,000 was requested to replace, don't have your eyes glazed over yet, okay? $11,000 requested to replace the deteriorating fence at Baker Park. The fence will be replaced using ARPA funds. Holohan Field, $36,000 was requested to replace the backstop and the adjacent fencing at Holohan Baseball Field. There are gaps in the fencing which affect functionality and containment of balls. The project was deferred to 2025-26. Lee Beach, $20,600 was approved to strip and paint one paddle court. This is the second court to be resurfaced in a multi-year plan. $40,000 was requested for security cameras at Weed Beach and Cherry Lawn Park, where the town has experienced vandalism. The request was not funded. $50,000 was requested to replace the gatehouse. The gatehouse was purchased in 2002, and exposure to salt and water has caused significant rust and deterioration. This request was deferred to 25-26. $135,000 was requested to upgrade the tennis wall and asphalt court, which are over 30 years old and have deteriorated. This request was not funded. Equipment. $5,000 for small capital was funded. $6,000 for replacement of 3 AEDs was funded. The current equipment is outdated and no longer reliable. $120,000 for replacement of a dump truck was funded. The old truck is used for plowing and the bed was rusted through. $16,500 for a stand-on blower was funded. This machine allows staff to be more efficient with their time, leaving time to do extra projects. So the total was $276,100, including $33,000 for ARPA. The Parks and Recreation Committee met on April 10th with 11 of 17 members present, 9 members in person, and 2 members on cell phones, constituting a quorum, and voted 8 members in favor and 3 members opposed to the 2024-2025 Parks and Recreation capital and non-recurring expenditures. The members who voted in opposition were not opposed to the capital requests, but were expressing their frustration with the lack of attention by the selectmen to the Pear Tree Beach project that would address parking lot, dredging, and boat ramp issues at the beach. The project has been pushed to 2026, 27 in the 6-year capital improvement plan, and the deep permits expire in 2027. The majority of the committee, supported the project. But we did have a discussion about the vote, and they asked me to give a report to you and let you know that there was some frustration and some hope that soon that Pear Tree will be moved forward in some shape or form. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. That comment is timely, given the next topic on our agenda.
Worked out that way.
It worked out that way. Look at that. Okay, is there any more public comment? Okay. So next, in fact, we are closing public comment. So next, in fact, we are going to be talking about next steps on the Pear Tree Point Capital Project with First Selectman. Just to refresh the public, a Pear Tree Point Building Committee was formed a number of years ago, well before the pandemic, with the end result of the building committee that was selected going through the approval process to do work at the Pear Tree Park, which includes, people will say raising the parking lot. There are sections that are being raised, but it's not like you're going to pull up and go up a hill. The whole thing will be leveled off and sections will be raised. Repairing the boat ramp and doing different types of remediation so that the beach property will be better protected from storm surges. Right now, with the storms, the sand just washes off, and unlike here at Pear Tree where we have the dunes and they keep the sand on the beach side, the Pear Tree parking lot is often full of sand. I was over there yesterday, full of sand, up on our new plantings, etc. We did go through the approval process during the pandemic. It took close to 2 years, shepherded by Weston and Sampson and Redness and Mead to get all of the necessary approvals from the various local and state authorities, and we did receive that approval in December of 2022. That month, we did make a presentation to the Board of Selectmen. Monica was chair at that point. A decision was made subsequently to, rather than put the project out to bid immediately, to go out and get an opinion of probable cost. I think that's the correct term, but effectively you get a subject matter expert to go out and do research and come back and say, based on current market conditions, we believe this is what the project would cost. And all in at that time, which I think that was 9 months ago, John, if not a year, that was about $6.5 million. So given some different bidding situations we've seen now, I'm not confident that that number would hold. For the last few years, while the commission has talked about putting the project in our capital request for the year, generally it's gotten pulled out of the capital budget that Adele just reviewed, because a project of that magnitude would normally be bonded, so it doesn't flow through the process in the same way. It kind of gets handled independently. So as a result, the project has somewhat sat in limbo, and we certainly as a commission get questions from time to time about what's happening with the Pear Tree project. We're now about 1.5 years into a 5-year approval. So we thought it would be good to speak with John, who's been in the first selectman seat for a few months now, about 4 months. Wanted to give him a little bit of a breather and just have a conversation about this with the thought that, pending commission concurrence, that we would formally ask the selectmen to have a discussion about the project and really think about next steps. So as a community, everybody understands what is or is not being done. So.
Okay. Just a couple things on Weed Beach before we get started. First of all, I thank everybody for coming here today. It's a unique property in a few senses. First, it has sat there for quite some time following our purchase of it in 2014, and there's been a felt need across town that we need to do something to move that project along. This particular project, I think, was fraught in the sense that there was a lot of process issues with that, and I think in the end we ended up with a project that a lot of people supported, but that some felt because of the way the process went, that perhaps they even didn't get enough input. I've seen this actually before, where we have something that gets discussed and it doesn't get until the end, until you get sort of full public input on that. And it's unfortunate. We wave the flag and try to push people to get involved, but sometimes we don't get the involvement that we really are looking for on some of these projects. So, as has been said, $1.9 million price tag was a lot for us to take in. Not that we couldn't afford it, it was just so significantly different from what was forecast by Weston and Sampson, which was in the $1 million zip code, that we really felt the need to go back and just recheck some of that. In one sense, it was surprising. In another sense, maybe not. You'll recall that we started it in the $60 million range for the HHR rebuilding for Henley Homes and Royal. That went to 80 million, and now we're north of 100 million in terms of costs for that. And so we're seeing this kind of inflation reflected in supplies, cost of labor, all of that for town projects across the board. So it's not surprising to see this kind of differential, but it was stark enough that we felt we should take another look at that. And that's going to be the purpose of, I think, the Parks and Rec Commission's charge, which is twofold, as I said in our Board of Selectmen meeting. One is to take the project back and see if there's a more rational way to approach this from a cost standpoint. And then two, pay particular attention to the clearing that was done sort of just south of that short lane stub that's there, which several speakers have mentioned today. And so I know the commission is going to take that up to see what their options are. The funding that I believe is being discussed later today or this evening pertains to that second piece, which is what could be done to remediate that. I don't think the commission is going to recommend anything or move forward with anything that's not carefully planned. So it's not like the decision to vote on that funding is going to preempt any need for planning. I've never known this commission not to do that. So it'll be something that's done thoughtfully. My only caution would be, what we don't want to do is spend money to do any remediation there that we're going to have to tear up later depending on what the planning is. So in a sense that may contribute to a delay in the remediation of that area, but I think it's important to sort of take into account at least a fairly well-formed view of what you want to do, so that the money that gets spent to sort of undo what was done to a degree is in fact not something we have to rip up or change later. So again, our charge to the commission is to take that back. We'll put it on our agenda and discuss it at any time. And I just again appreciate everybody coming tonight to talk about it. These are not easy things. Just to the comment that Juliet made about me saying before that you never get to 100% answer on anything. That happens every day. It's never 100%. But what I specifically meant by that is that it is not easy to balance recreation and nature. There are a lot of people who say, well, you can have both in one property. That's really hard to do. I got an email even today by someone commenting about Great Island, and the comment was, we shouldn't touch it at all, right? In fact, we don't want any people there. Any people disturb Great Island, right? I don't mean that to mock that person. That's a perfectly valid comment, but it just reflects how important people take preservation of nature, which is why when I laid out strategic goals for Great Island, that was the first plank. But it also means that if you go 100% to preserve every last bit of nature, it's really hard to have some of the recreational things, especially if you're going to have people. So what I would urge everyone to do, when I say we're not getting to a 100% solution, nobody's going to be satisfied from 100% in terms of recreation, and they won't be satisfied 100% with the nature part of it. And that's part of compromise for this, but we're going to get something that makes sense on both counts as best as we possibly can do. And you know how we'll get there is by input from people like you, so I appreciate you coming. So on Pear Tree Point, I went down, as we all have, after the latest rain. And the rain that kills us is not the volume of rain, it's the rate of rain. So anytime you have rain that's really fast, we have flooding in town, and there's no amount of money that we can invest that's going to stop that. It is what it is. The Pear Tree Point project has three components. The first part of that is to raise Pear Tree Point parking lot, right? Essentially take it up much higher than what it is. I think it's 2 feet. The second piece of that is the reconstruction of the boat ramp that is on sort of the far end of the parking lot. That needs to be done. If anybody has a boat here, you know what I'm talking about. We need a new boat ramp. And the third piece is dredging from the boat ramp that goes around the boat club to about the gas station. You probably heard that there's another dredging project, funding for a study of which we have approved, and that's to cover dredging that's further into the water, sort of away from the gas station. That's kind of a separate project. So as Lori said, this total project for those three components that I mentioned is coming in at about $6.7 million. We'll get sharper cost estimates as we go along, but in the zip code of what we're expecting, it's something like that. Obviously, it would be capitalized. This is something we need to spend time on. I did get a separate briefing from Craig Flaherty, who many of you know. He's very focused on sort of the flood remediation. And when he lays this out, it's very clear we're going to lose that beach unless we start to get busy and do something about that. So this has some real importance, so I take Lori's words and the Commission's words seriously. We're going to put this on this agenda for the Board of Selectmen on May 20th, which is our next public session. So please come to that. At that meeting, I'm going to have Redness and Mead, so that'll be Craig Flaherty. He's going to be there, as well as Weston and Sampson, who are more responsible for the overall project. The only other thing to mention in terms of funding is I did have some meetings with folks from the boat club, given that a big part of this surrounds their assets and some of the critical parts of that. I've asked them to be prepared to make a substantial financial contribution to this. So that's going to entail, obviously, some resources from their members, and everything's expensive these days, and so I get that that's not going to be easy. On the one hand, we are a boating and coastal community, so I think as a municipality, we have an interest in preserving those assets and promoting that activity, but it's probably also not fair to say that the town should pay for 100% of that. It's made a little more difficult now by the fact that sediment that gets dredged from anywhere has to be tested for contaminants, and the state has ratcheted up the standards for all of that. So sediment that actually in the past we could dredge up and sell to someone who needed sediment, and we would make money on that. The standards have increased such that we're expecting it to be a red flag sediment, which means it needs to be taken out. It's got to be dewatered and then shipped to a site for disposal. And so that's significantly more expensive than either selling it or just dumping it into Long Island Sound because it's safe. So more to come on that. We'll get this on the agenda for the Board of Selectmen. I'm going to try to get or precede that discussion with questions. If it looks like it's something rational that the board can approve at that meeting, I'll call for a vote and we'll approve that. The next step is like any capital project we have, it'll go to the Board of Finance for consideration at that point and to the RTM for approval as a capital project. Timing will depend a little bit on some permitting and a few other issues, which we will initiate simultaneously once it gets approved. But I think we should move forward on this with alacrity, as they say. The one last comment that I had that I'm a little worried about is that the plans as they currently stand call for taking about 31 parking places out of the Pear Tree Point lot, given that we're using that for Great Island now and probably all summer, and maybe in future years, depending on the parking strategy that we come up with for Great Island. I'm a little worried about taking out that parking from that lot. And so I've asked to see if there's some other alternatives for maybe how you could prevent beach erosion with something else than what they planned. The reason they're taking that out is that the sand dune, like they have here at Weed Beach, like what's planned for the second segment of Weed Beach we were just talking about, is very good for beach protection and sort of beach erosion, but there's not enough room to put it there unless we take out those parking spaces. So more to come on that, but that was an area of concern of mine. Let me just stop talking there, for which I'm sure you're thankful. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but that's my report.
Okay, well, we just do questions from the commission.
Okay, questions from the commission.
Then with public comment.
Okay.
Question.
Question?
One thing I just want to mention as part of the process you mentioned is that the selectmen, if you vote to proceed immediately, as opposed to saying, we want to do this, but wait a year or wait 2 years or whatever it is, that you'll need to form a building committee.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I am not, based on what I've seen in my conversations with the engineers, I'm not in favor of waiting. I think there's some urgency with this.
Okay. Okay. So that would be a piece of it too, is to form a building committee from the community.
Will do.
And it's as you know, I know you've talked to Craig about it, it's a highly technical project.
Super technical, actually.
Super technical,
it's not just the engineering, it's the permitting. It's almost like it's worse than, well, not worse, better in a sense than even a school building committee if you're really geeky and interested in stuff like this.
Right. So we'd really be looking for community members who come with that technical kind of engineering building.
Correct, recognizing that we will have professionals working alongside. It's just like a school building committee. You don't actually have to build the school if you're on the committee, but some sharp oversight. I think Lori's right about that. We'll seek that out.
Questions or comments for John? Yeah, I mean, with the funds we've had, which have been limited, the commission through the department has really done as much work as we can do to spruce up Pear Tree. We did some pretty substantial replanting along Pear Tree Point Road last spring. I looked at it yesterday. It looks like pretty much all of the plants are coming back. We'll keep
Yeah,
an
that's
eye on
nice.
them. We did spend some funds to put irrigation in them to keep them. We did them in front of the building. The crew painted the outside of the building. The bathrooms have just over the winter been repainted under Jim's supervision. New flooring has gone down. The new partitions, et cetera, are going to be going in the next week or so. So we will have some refreshed bathrooms down there, but it's you know, still the same building, but it's pretty much. The commission and the department have done what we can do with the property at this point until this moves forward.
Okay, over to us, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Now I had on here to vote on an action plan, but that action plan was probably going to be to ask the selectmen to proceed with a formal
You
discussion.
can do a formal vote, but I'll tell you, it's on our agenda for the 20th.
Okay. All right, well, somebody want to make a motion so we can formally say that we would like to ask the selectmen to take up and discuss the future of the approved.
I will.
Okay. Mary Louise, Kathy, all in favor? Okay, all right, so because we're talking about Pear Tree now, you guys remember that the Freight family does use the dock, and we re-approve that every 6 months just to make sure that we do keep a tight eye on their usage of it. When we re-approved in November for the winter season, Pam did include in his letter just a notation to them that, you know, it is possible that in the next few years that the boat ramp would be going under construction, which could disrupt their usage, and they did need to be aware of that. But other than that, I will tell you, I was down there yesterday, and one of the 2 boats was parked where it was not supposed to be, so we will need to, I did take a picture, so we will need to reach out to him on that, because it really, they have to be, and the tide was very, very low, but they need to be inside, especially as we're going into the summer season. And our letters do say that we can terminate immediately if we see that, so we will put a warning back out there. But any questions or comments? Mary Louise?
Well, I think we should continue to let him to continue to dock there until we start moving in the direction we're going to do a construction project there. As one of the only local businesses in town here who's been doing this for years, I think we should continue to let him do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would agree. I know that it may not always be the prettiest of boats, but it's a working boat.
Yeah.
And a working boat is a working boat. And it's one of the few sort of left in our area. So until we have to ask him to move, I think this is his only alternative. We've tried to look into others. So I would be in favor of approving it until the construction project begins.
Okay. Any other? Okay, John, I gave you a heads up about it just because I wasn't sure if you were familiar, so.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's fine to go ahead with that.
Okay, so this would be to continue to allow the Freight family to dock their dinghies at the Pear Tree on the innermost side, closest to the road, for the period April 30th this year to November 1st, and then of course we'll just revisit it. And I know sometimes you guys are like, why do we keep doing this? But the feeling was there was a number of years where it fell through the cracks, and as a result we weren't getting the insurance updated and taking the necessary steps. So I just feel by keeping this front and center, we make sure that we're keeping everything buttoned.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Chris, thank you. Jim second, all in favor? Opposed?
I'm abstaining, Susan.
Okay, so now update on the Weed Beach Meadow and Trail. We've already talked about that bit, and you know, John has talked about it a bit as well, and I'll give you an update on the work that we've been doing since then. But you know, I do want to mention that the commission has been working on this for a number of years, and it was discussed publicly many, many times. In fact, last July, Dan Biggs of Weston and Sampson did a presentation in this room, and many residents of the Bay were at that meeting. So the public outreach has been there for quite a bit of time. So I really just feel it's important to get out that it was not something, as has been implied, that we were trying to slip through at the last minute during the holiday season. That's just simply not Correct, we got on the P&Z schedule when we were put on the P&Z schedule. And I do remind folks that we've been working with Weston and Sampson. It's a very old firm, it dates to 1899. They are a full-service consulting firm with over 800 professionals. They have planners, landscape architects, engineers, scientists, construction inspectors. Their areas of expertise include community planning, landscape architecture, civil engineering, landscape architecture, environmental science permitting, climate resilience and sustainability, stormwater and design, drainage. They're among their capabilities. The firm regularly addresses infrastructure and environmental challenges of municipalities. This is what they do. In fact, the Engineering News Record in 2022 rated Weston and Sampson number 105 of 200 top environmental firms in the country, and in 2023 number 142 of top 500 design firms. ENR is an American weekly magazine that provides news analysis, data, and opinion for the construction industry and is widely regarded as the Bible of the industry. So I just want to reiterate, we're working with a really, really good firm. Dan Biggs, who's led the project, is a registered landscape architect, certified arborist, and a certified ecological practitioner. He has a Bachelor's of Science in Construction Management, and he holds a Master's in Landscape Architecture. This project, at the request of Planning and Zoning, was peer-reviewed by Redness and Mead, and the peer review is very specific to really the engineering, the stormwater management, and the flooding. Redness and Mead, as I think you all know, Darien has a very, very deep relationship with the firm. They absolutely came back with questions that Dan needed to address. They worked through the resolution and some design adjustments to the point where Redness and Mead, as engineers, were willing to sign off on the project. And I think many of you know Craig Flaherty, who is the president of Redness Mead, and their senior engineer. He's the current chair of the Sewer Commission. He's served on the Darien Advisory Committee of Sustainability. He's the former chair of both the Darien Flood Mitigation Strategy Committee and the Darien Environmental Protection Commission. So we've had really, really good people looking at this project. So I really feel it's important to say that publicly because things are getting quoted in the paper, and I don't think the level and the abilities of the people who've been working behind the scenes for years on this project for us is really getting out there. So I did want to take the time to do that. Both these projects have been reviewed by multiple boards, commissions, and agencies, both local and state, and they are both fully approved, ready to go projects. So the only thing we don't have is the money. So.
One thing I know we're going to have is neighbor engagement. So I'm going to make sure of that. So if any of you guys see me lurking in the neighborhood, knocking on doors, reminding people about this meeting, so don't call the police, it's just,
So unfortunately, since our last commission meeting, we did get the bid back, and we received 2 bids, both coming in at the 1.9 million, which I know has been reported. But this is the first opportunity that the commission has met since that meeting. So again, this is our primary. You all have been talking among yourselves, but we need to talk in a formal setting and have these discussions. So everybody's, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are your plans? Well, we have to do it in this forum. So since that came in, I've had numerous conversations with John, certainly, with Dan Biggs. Susan and I met on property with Jeremy Ginsburg, Rick Talametti, and Sandy Rich, who's our park supervisor, to talk about the parcel and both short-term and then how to proceed on the project for the long-term basis. What has been suggested to us, and I've talked to John about this, by Jeremy Ginsburg, who is the head of our Planning and Zoning Department, and Rick Talametti, who is our town's EPC officer, is that for the short term that we should stabilize the property by evening out the area that's now dirt, cleaning up the sticks, the stumps, whatever, leveling it and grassing it over, and then planting. We can plant trees along the perimeter that are consistent with the approved plan. That is their recommendation to us. We would do that under the supervision of Dan Biggs to make sure that all of the work that's done is consistent with the approved plan. The cost to do that for the supervision with Weston and Sampson, Dan estimated $5,000 to $8,000. It would be a time materials basis. And the trees, he estimated up to 15 trees at $300 per, which would be $5,000. So to get the property leveled off and grassed over, which will retain the dirt, we would be looking to the selectmen for about $13,000. And then the next step would be to, what we were charged with doing by the selectmen was to see how a portion of the approved plan could be accomplished for about $1 million, which was the number that we had in our head. And I've talked to Dan, and he felt that to rephase the plan in a couple of phases and prepare new bid docs for the first phase would be, he quoted $12,000. So we would need to get that funding as well to really move forward on any planning. So, questions from the commission? Or John? Okay. So we would be asking for, let's see, 8 and 5 is 13, and 12 is, we would need $25,000.
Let's make sure that gets on the agenda for
Okay.
the 20th, and we'll discuss that in more detail then.
Okay, so I would need a motion from Janet and Mary Louise to, Susan and I will work to go forward to the Board of Selectmen. Do you think you want that for May 20th as well? Okay. Then we will take it from there. Okay. Any questions on that? We're good?
Do we have a vote?
Did we vote? Did I vote, or did I only take a first and second?
You did the first and second.
Oh, all in favor? Thank you. Everybody opposed? No? Okay, sorry, see, I told you, I'm doing this all by myself tonight. I don't have anybody here to slap my sidekick. I've been flying without my sidekick. Okay, next we're going to do an update on the Cherry Lawn Playground installation and the brick fundraiser. Susan, do you want to touch on the front fundraiser? And then I spoke to John Hullerbeck this afternoon. I give an update on everything, on the timing.
Oh, sure. We had originally closed the brick fundraising process, thinking that we needed to, to keep the deadline tight because of production of the bricks with the inscriptions. And our vendor gave us a little more time to go forward, so I've kept the link open, and we're up to actually $76,000 in terms of monies raised for the walkway and patio. Can you hear me now? Yep. So I think we're in good shape. So we're going to keep it open until April 28th. We're going to put it out on social media again. But honestly, we've gotten a lot of great, participation from the community. A lot of newcomers, it seems, a lot of young families, and just from some of the wording, you could see that a lot of people had some great memories at Cherry Lawn, and other people are looking forward to making more memories. So I just thought it's been a really nice community building effort, and I look forward to having it all done, hopefully in a couple months.
Great, well, thank you. I want to thank you for spearheading the brick fundraiser, because a little while there it looked like it might not quite get off the ground, and John jumped in and helped us get some technical issues buttoned up quickly, so thank you for that. But also for your work on spearheading both the McGuan and the Cherry Lawn playgrounds. And I know you said you've read some of the messages, but I don't know what you saw this, but I wanted to let you know that the commission has purchased a brick for you. Did you see it? You did, maybe? Anyway. But we wanted to honor you and thank you.
Thank you so much.
I would just say that, as I've said many times, the fuel in the tank in this town is volunteers, period. I mean, the number of people, literally in the thousands, that volunteer currently or have volunteered, boards, commissions, elective office, or just Little League, senior citizens, whatever that is. It is amazing how many people step up, but every once in a while, somebody goes above and beyond, and Susan really has done that. She's an exceptional individual. She is tenacious, she's smart, she's funny, she's terrific, and I personally just want to let you know how appreciative I am of what you do.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you, guys.
You're going to be a big loss. Huge loss.
Okay.
Big, huge loss.
No, you guys are doing a great job, and so much was already done, so hopefully not a lot more Thank you.
But
We have lots of volunteer opportunities, and we know where you live, so.
Yep.
Yeah, we know you were gonna.
Virtually did.
Anyway, but we
Taxpayer.
really just, you know, we just somehow felt like, you know, when you'll be leaving us in a few more months and
Yeah.
getting you another plant probably didn't seem that appropriate, given you have thousands, so we just thought that brick was the way to go.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Okay. All right, and then in terms of the timing of the playground, I did speak with John, about an hour before this meeting, and he thinks they'll start removing the old equipment in early May. You know, maybe not that week that, you know, that kind of straddles April and May, but he thought, you know, going into that next week or maybe towards the tail end of it. And then the construction of the new playground definitely will be getting going in May. So,
Kind of mid-June is when you think it's up and running? That's okay.
yep. Yep, so.
Depends on the rain.
No,
The rain's been, talk about the rate of the rain, it's really affected their building of the new playgrounds that they had on schedule, so.
Oh, okay.
The delay has been due to that.
Yeah.
The manufacturing of it?
No, it's just installing.
They've had all of the equipment ready for, since like
It's been
February.
here since March, I mean, in their
March,
warehouse.
February, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean their schedule of installing other playgrounds?
Yeah, so
Yes.
we're in a queue with,
We're
and
in
if
a
those
queue,
don't get done, so.
And they just lost time because, you know, as you know, we've had some gully washers and, you know, it just halts all of their construction, so. But I did speak to them this afternoon and they're, you know, we're next up. So they're just finishing another project now, so we can look forward to that. We need to work with Marley Hayes and this, you know, town, the department staff to make sure we get the communications out to the public using our various formats to, you know, start giving people a heads up that the playground will be going out of commission.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's exciting that we're going to be seeing that. And that was $500,000 of ARPA funding.
Yep. I will be an early climber on that equipment.
Early climber.
Just once.
Just once?
Not every day.
In your suit?
Every other day. Yeah,
In
no.
your suit?
Well, people would look at, they think I was an imposter if I weren't in my suit. You know, I'll loosen my tie a little bit.
Okay. You'll break some more fingers.
Okay, good point.
Okay, good. Okay, so I think that's the, unless you have any questions on where we are in Cherry, because that's a big project for us in the department, so, okay, good. Would you like to be excused?
I'm out here, I'm good.
Okay, you're good, all right.
Right now, I'm setting myself.
Okay, if you're happy and enjoying this. Okay. Next, we need to discuss and vote on 2 donations under our commemorative bench program. The first I know you all discussed last month when I was away, and that was a proposal by the Darien Pride Committee to purchase 6 Adirondack chairs, 2 each for Tilly, Pear, and Weed. The chairs they're proposing are not the established chairs that we have under our commemorative bench program that's been in place for, I think, like 10 years or so now. And they differ both in, you know, the style, they're foldable, and also they are multicolored. So I know you all discussed that last week. I know Kathy, you wanted to inquire whether the flag policy adopted by the selectmen also would bind this, and we heard back from Kate that she thought it was a separate matter, so.
It's a totally separate matter, and theirs was a decision about what flags should actually fly in the town, and this is a gift issue that is solely within our discretion.
Yep.
So we can make the determination here.
I would just say, I mean, watching last month, the general belief, I think it's a very generous donation and gift, and I just think that potentially the appropriate way forward right at this moment would just be to utilize the standard protocol that we have for gifting chairs or benches and things like that, rather than trying to deviate in any specific way at this time. So I would vote to just potentially table this and move towards just the traditional chairs that are already existent out at the 4 parks that we have right now.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think I agree with Chris. Mainly from an aesthetic standpoint for me, just in terms of, overall park aesthetics, consistency across, our various properties, and just giving sort of that coherent, consistent
aesthetic feel when it becomes our, when people are sitting in our parks. And I feel that donors obviously they want to be recognized. So we have ways isn't there like
Plaques,
a little
yes.
plaque? Yeah.
Yes.
So I think when people are sitting, they're reading the plaques, and I think they can appreciate the donors' thoughts and efforts, and certainly their generosity. But I feel like in terms of a look and feel, it should stay within the framework that we already have established for all of our benches.
Yeah, I would agree from a quality standpoint too, that we
Yeah.
want to have the same type of chairs and
Yeah.
the same quality. I do think I'd love to send a letter to the Darien Pride Group, recognizing that we understand this wonderful gift they're giving, that they were looking for a different type of recognition, but we need to stay within our sort of confines of the actual policy itself. The policy, I think, as we talked about last week, needs a little tweaking. I will take it on with Lori, and we'll make sure that the language is clearer. But at the same time, I would like to recognize that, this is a group that feels like they want to be recognized because they feel like we don't necessarily have the diversity of thought necessarily across the board or acceptance. And so I'd like to send a letter to them recognizing that as well as the fact that we would like them to submit the chairs within the guidelines of our policy with a commemorative plaque.
Any other thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I'd like to keep it consistent. It's definitely from a maintenance standpoint, and the aesthetics of the beach. And because we already have a program, we don't want to have to compete with our own program for the way these chairs are brought about in terms of fundraising.
Yeah, these chairs are also, I think they're a bit lighter, and they're also collapsible, which unfortunately I think would make them more subject to theft as well. And we continue to have vandalism issues down here. I'll talk about that a little bit later in my report. So could I have a motion? It sounds like we would decline the specific gift for the multicolored chairs, but we would welcome the opportunity to accept the gifts of additional Adirondack chairs within our program with the commemorative plaques that come with them.
I agree, Kathy.
First, Chris? Okay, all in favor? Okay. And then we have a second proposal for a bench donation to go to Pear Tree by the Criscuolo family in honor of Matthew Criscuolo. It looked like it was quite straightforward. You all saw the attendant paperwork. I think it's a well-known name in town, certainly, Criscuolo family.
Yeah.
And any questions or comments on that? No, the staff will work with them on the plaque. Okay.
Did you get the clarification about the wording, that if it has to be approved by...
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay, so that's not gonna, so we're allowed to do this without that process?
Well, the wording has to go through the Parks office first, so...
Then it goes, okay.
So then if it needs to, which I'm not clear it does,
Okay.
Then we would take care of that piece.
So I guess I want to be clear on this, like, is it, the trigger here is the fact that it's a memory, it says in memory, and instead of saying, it said in honor of?
It's not clear, Susan.
No, okay.
None of that is clear.
Because I think, okay.
I spent more time on this week than I care to admit to you.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay, that's good. Okay. So then can I have a motion to accept the gift of a bench under a commemorative program from the Criscuolo family? Kathy? Mary Louise, I'll give you the second. Okay, all in favor? Okay. All right, so we're not going to get this resolved tonight, the commemorative bench program. There's a number of open questions. Hold on, I just got to get to my notes. Okay. There's definitely been discussion that, depending on the wording of the plaque, that the Monuments and Ceremonies Commission needs to approve it. But, here we go. But I tried to research that this week, and I couldn't find anything that says that. The town code is printed out, oh my gosh, it's printed out in the world's smallest font.
It is.
But it says the following, this is on monuments and conditions, the following are duties regarding monuments. It says monuments. And the second one, which is number 2, it says to establish guidelines for the erection of new monuments, markers, and plaques on public property. So it just says to establish guidelines, and it also says in the town code that the Monuments and Ceremonies Commission's rules and regulations shall be on file with the town clerk. So I had a lovely chat with the town clerk's office, who does not have anything other than this. And I also reached out to the chair, and she was researching, but have not heard back from her. So far we haven't put our hands on anything specific beyond this. And it also refers to public property, yet on the other hand, the town code also is very specific that anything to do with the parks is solely under our purview. So that might be a wee bit of a conflict.
Yeah,
So-
because under the gift policy, the gifts to the parks are clearly within our discretion.
Right. So we're going to need to figure some of this out. So we're not going to, you look perplexed.
No, I'm just listening.
Yes, so, these are the little things we come across that we have to dig into. I know there was also a discussion I was raised, last year, I think it was Cheryl Russell said, well, does this mean somebody could buy a chair and put an advertisement on it? And there was some kind of conversation about what commemorative means. So, I looked up the definition of the word, commemorative, and it says acting as a memorial or marker of an event or person. And it says it can be done to officially remember a great person or event, including recognition that commemorates a special individual, group, or event. So I think that covers what we intend here as opposed to an advertisement. But I think we want to clean this document up. It's a few years old. I think we should probably clean up that language in terms of kind of, what we're looking for, so there's no ambiguity. The document doesn't specifically say that it needs to be accepted by the Parks and Recreation Commission, so we're going to want to get that in there, even though the town code requires that we accept gifts. But the way this is written, it kind of says that the department can just accept it, and I think that's why there was some confusion, because I definitely recall in the past that some of these were brought to us, but then I think for the last year or two, they were not brought to us. Pam was just accepting them and taking care of it, and they weren't formally coming to the commission. Kate Bush made the suggestion that we could vote and say if the donation comes in within, all of the requirements of this program, we could authorize the director to do that and only come to us if there's an exception, or we could just say, we just want to see them all. There's not that many that I kind of feel like I would like to know and have the commission be involved, and then I think you also avoid this kind of slipping through the cracks, so.
Was MNC involved with the plaques around Tilly Pond? I thought
Who?
Monuments and Ceremonies.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the bank, and I was like, what?
No, sorry. Because if I recall correctly, we did that internally to put up the plaques around Tilly.
See, the urban folklore seems to be,
Yeah.
if it says like in memoriam, or if it says, like if it said in memoriam Joe Blow, 1956 to 2022, that would have to go to them. But if it just says, we love you and miss you, Papa, this is for Joe Blow, then just the office approves the language. So it's as clear as mud right now, to be honest with you. So we need to do a little bit more digging, just so that we can either conclude that what the plaques say is fully within our purview, or when and if Monuments and Ceremonies is required to opine. And I just don't know the answer right now.
Got it.
So I think we'll keep working on that, but we're not going to resolve it tonight. But definitely need some cleanup. We also talked about refreshing the pricing. The office did a little bit of work on it. They seemed to think the pricing was probably okay. Based on the cost of the benches, the white 5-foot bench. The cost of Park and Rec is $949. We're charging $2,500. No, I take it back. It's gone up, that was the old pricing. It's gone up to just over $1,000, and we charge $2,500, and that includes, the maintenance for 10 years. And I think the other thing we wanted to talk about is the current program says that at the end of the 10 years, unless people pay another $2,500, we get rid of the bench. And I kind of want to talk about that some more. I mean, if it's a perfectly good bench, well, why? Yeah. So I think we need to spend some more time on it.
We just don't have to replace it after 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, if the bench was in such poor condition and falling apart, then I think we need to reserve the right to say that the staff doesn't need to keep repairing it, because we kind of say for the first 10 years, we will take care of all repairs, and I guess a replacement, but after that. But I think that's some wording that we probably want to spend a little time thinking about how we want to handle that. Because if somebody's got a nice plaque on it and the chairs the bench or chair's in good condition, I don't know why we would just summarily, that's just not good for anybody.
Makes sense. Yep.
So more work to be done. Certainly welcome volunteers. If somebody wants to kind of dig into this some more with me, that would be great. And then just clear it up, but we're not going to get this cleared up tonight, and we need staff support as well, which we don't have tonight. But I just wanted to update you on what I did, kind of did and didn't find out, which was
A more to come project.
So it's as many of our projects, we've had a couple other things like this that, just like one little thing comes up and you start peeling back the layers of the onion and you're like, okay, I think we need to do a real overhaul and refresh. So I think we'll leave that tonight and not spend a lot more time on it, okay? Hopefully I can get some more information for monuments and ceremonies too. I know you're doing some work with them anyway, right, and some other things, like cemeteries?
Cemeteries, 9/11 ceremony, and
all that stuff.
Lots to do.
Okay, great. Okay, so now update from our advisory groups.
Okay,
Invasives, I'm sorry.
Well, the invasives working group is working very hard. I'm going to specifically address the area at Cherry Lawn. Laura Mosier, one of our master gardeners, has taken soil samples and sent them off to Yukon for an analysis of the soil. The results should be back in early May, and we'll help confirm the proper native and wetland plants to be planted in place of the removed invasives. We had given a proposed list of plants and trees to the Board of Selectmen back in January. However, in meeting with EPC, they have requested a design in addition to the listing of the plants. So we are going out to different people to get us specific designs, and then we will walk it with the EPC and show them exactly where which tree and which plant and which vine is going to be planted along it's the river, what's it, whatever. There's a river that runs in the back of the Cherry Lawn area, and this is what I'm referring to, Chris Filmer's path that runs around there. Since we will not be able to access the money until July 1st, we're really talking about a fall planting project. In addition, it has been noted that we're going to need approval for 2 small platform bridges, if you like, connecting the path to the stone bridges that are currently in existence. And Chris Filmer is working with Patty Baumgartner to come up with different designs that we can then show to EPC. Let's see. So that is moving forward. We're also focusing on an education outreach plan to the public. We're creating a fact sheet with photos highlighting. We're going to zero in on 5 of the most invasive and popular invasive plants around Darien. Burning bush, porcelain berry, English ivy, bittersweet, multiflora rosa, Japanese bayberry, the buttercup that you see everywhere now.
That's your celandine.
The celadon, yeah.
And the garlic mustard. We're gonna pick 5 out of that group, come up with a picture that can be posted on the different boards that we have around town, both at Cherry Lawn, also down at the beach, basically wherever they are. At the Woodland Park has one, and so on. So we're gonna post them so people can identify what they are, show them how they should get rid of them and what they can plant in their place. And that is the goal there. All right, that's pretty much what we are doing. Chris Filmer has reached out to Louise Washer in Norwalk, who's a wetland expert, and both she and Chris walked the area in December, so she is going to be one of the people providing a plan. Laura Mosier is working on a landscape designer that she knows. Victoria, who is at the Nature Center, she's reaching out to a Fairfield company named Native, and so on, and we will pick the best one, the most affordable one, to come up with a plan. So that's pretty much it for invasives.
Great, thank you.
Cherry Lawn Gardens.
Cherry Lawn Gardens.
I met with the Cherry Lawn Gardeners last evening. We have all 60 plots are taken. There is a waiting list, which was initially established back in 2021, that currently has 44 people on it. So there clearly is a need for more gardens in Darien. Interesting side note, next year, the Cherry Lawn Gardeners will be celebrating their 50th anniversary, which is a big deal. And let me see. The bees. We have a hive over at the garden. Unfortunately, the bees didn't make it through the winter, this past winter. However, we got a package of bees delivered yesterday, 10,000. Italian bees from Georgia that had been installed. We did not pick Russian or African bees because they are too aggressive. So supposedly the Italian bees are the best.
That's true. No, that's not true. Susan knows. She's a beekeeper.
And over the summer, those 10,000 are going to increase to somewhere between 30 and 60,000. So they will all be pollinating our cherry lawn gardens.
And for miles around.
Correct.
And for miles around they go.
And then one other side note. I was informed yesterday that the EPC did not like the idea that we were putting all of our weeds and whatnot in an area that they deemed to be perhaps close to wetlands. So that's something that we are currently addressing. One of the garden members said that supposedly this was an issue that had come to light in the past, and it was determined that the gardens were, quote, farmland, and therefore were not subject to the wetland areas. However, that is going to be discussed further with Rick.
See, all these nuances.
Yes, exactly.
These nuances.
It was suggested that perhaps, since Park and Rec is nice enough to dump wood chips, which they have done this week over at the garden, to be used on our paths, that perhaps 1 or 2 times over the course of the summer, we could arrange to have all the weeds that had been accumulated put there and they could pick them up. But that has yet to be finalized. And so the gardening season has begun. Cleanup is this weekend, and we are off and running.
Great. Do you know how many people you were able to take off of the waiting list?
I believe it was 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, Mary Louise, I think that you mentioned at the last meeting this, but I'll bring it up again. All of the gardens are being worked, right? When a wait list of 40-plus people, you hate it to be like the parking stickers at the train station where people still have them, but they're not using it. They are all being worked, right? So if anything wasn't, we could bring somebody off that wait list then.
Well, we did take 4 off the wait list.
Okay, so 4 came off.
Correct.
Okay, so all 60, whatever, are being...
They're correct.
Great, okay.
And the group, the members of the advisory group do inspections several times during the summer, and if people haven't planted, if they aren't keeping up with their weeding or whatever, then they can be subject to forfeiture.
Yep.
Correct.
Great.
So they really make sure that, yeah, as you said, there's no plots that are just sitting there not being used.
Right.
And it's written, I guess you guys have the comment, it's locked, you can't just, anybody can't walk in, but certainly Mary Louise has taken me through it several times. It's really written. There's people who grow flowers and the plants, and it's really nice. It's lovely. It's a really lovely spot. So, that's great.
So,
great, thank you. Hey, gardening season. Okay, Janet, Baker Park, our last playground to be renovated. Tell us what your group has been up to.
Okay. So we just had our first official meeting. We had a special meeting back in March on site at Baker. The 5 of us met and we walked the grounds and had some really good insight because 2 of the group members, of my group members, do live right across the street from the park, and so I think they go there very often with their kids, and I think they also are able to convey through them, convey to the group sort of needs and wants of other neighbors that are close to the park. And then myself and the other 2 group members don't live as close, but we're all within the vicinity and have little kids in the targeted age range. We have since decided that we will continue to keep the park at a 5 to 12 targeted age range, which is apparently, I don't think a lot of people know this, but it is what's there right now.
Really?
Yes.
That's considered 12-year-old equipment?
Because of this one feature. And I think, that this one feature where it's like a monkey bar, but that it like rotates, that feature is higher from the ground. And I think that feature alone is designated a 5 to 12 age range. Even though I think the dinosaur and the colors and everything, I always thought it reads like 3-year-old. Like a 3 to 5, yes, but it's not.
It was also built so long ago that the standards, the level of play has increased in like the 10, 20 years that something
Absolutely, yeah.
Like evidenced by Cherry Lawn being the same situation. It's the 5 to 12 area.
Right, the 5 to 12 now is not going to look like the 5 to 12 from 20 years ago. So we have determined that we want to attract as many children as possible, and older children. So we don't want to limit it and make it even
Just
younger. Yeah. So we're now keeping the 5 to 12 age range, but understanding that what's going to be put in today for 5 to 12 is probably going to look a little bit different than what's there right now. And then the big question that came up really is whether we go a naturalistic theme versus just a more traditional playground theme, and then we debated a lot about colors. We spoke to Cassie Scholl, who's a department staff who's attended a lot of these playground conferences, who is very knowledgeable about sort of like what colors attract what age range, and I was pleasantly surprised to find out from her that I think we all kind of know that primary colors are attractive to kids, but it's actually very specific. It's quite nuanced in that only the taller age group is attracted to primary colors. Kids that are like 9 years and older actually are sophisticated enough that they seek out things that feel more mature. So they actually look for more like either naturalistic feels or colors that are more just like neutral, earthy tones that feel like cooler. They actually stay away more from things that are overly bright. So these are all things that, you know, have come up in discussion. We're still pretty early on, so we had our first regular meeting on the 9th over Zoom, and after that, so we have a few action items that come out of that meeting that I'm following up on, and, you know, we've divided and conquered. Some of the group members are going to meet Mike from MRC. He's a consultant that represents multiple you know, playground vendors, and we've also, I myself have met him once already on site, and I've also met with this other gentleman that owns Environmental Designs, that is a naturalistic playground vendor, meaning when I say naturalistic, I don't mean just the look and feel of it. If it's like wood, everything is mostly made out of wood. You know, the challenge with that, I've come to find out, is that it doesn't last as long.
Maintenance.
So if we want, you know, this playground to last another 20 years, we probably do want to, at least materials-wise, go in a more traditional route, but we can work with the colors to make it less, you know, like less toddler and more older kids friendly. We're meeting with Mike again on site and with the actual installer, because we want to go over some technical questions. During this time, Mike has also provided us with sort of a list of either assumptions or just things that we should probably like have, you know, kind of sort of figured out before we really discuss it with any vendor, like things like, you know, who's going to remove the existing. And I know Susan obviously just went through this with Cherry Lawn, but, you know, I think, so all that needs to be in the, it sounds like the town is not going to be doing like the removal of these existing equipment. So, you know, we need to have that as part of the quote when they give us the bid. And the retaining wall, there's, you know, there's 2 levels at Baker, and especially if we want to put in the swing set that either the town already has, or, you know, there is one that came from Oxbridge, yeah. So either we're going to install that, or if we're going to get a separate swing set, it needs to be on a separate, that's higher level. So it's just need to talk through sort of who's going to replace the existing wood that is like serving as the retaining wall, because there's a great difference. But you know, the existing one is in pretty bad shape and really needs to be replaced as part of this whole project. So we're going to find out a lot of those answers next Thursday, I'm thinking, when we meet with both the installer and Mike. And with Mike, we also have posed to him, we've already reviewed many different modules of playground modules that are offered by both Game Time and this other more naturalistic company that he represents, Big Toy. So we have a lot of questions, and we're meeting with him and the installer to understand everything. What are the customizability of different modules, and obviously cost. One thing I was heartened to hear from him is that I think I was under the impression that poured and play rubber surface was probably going to be out of our budget. But it sounds like, one, all parents love it a lot. Like, I've gotten that feedback from multiple people. My own kids love it, especially, you know, the new ones at McWane. And, you know, as previous research has shown, it's like very safe and environmentally friendly and lasts a long time and just everything. But it's very expensive. Yes. So I think I was heartened to hear from Mike that it's not completely out of the question. Like, I think we have a healthy enough budget that, like, we need to maybe tweak some things, like with the retaining wall and all that, and we can't have it all, of course, but, you know, but so it's just good to know that it might still be on the table for us. Otherwise, we would have to just go to the wood chips, which is fine. But, you know, between the wood chips and there's also what's called like wood mulch, really is like the technical term, and then between that and rubber mulch, I think we would lean towards just wood mulch. The rubber mulch, I think the only upside is that it lasts longer, but I think it can get very dangerous, you know, with like little kids, like, I don't know, with little pieces of rubber. So, either we
I think
keep
would
it
be
very
hot.
natural.
I would think it would be hot as well.
Yeah, it depends on the color. I wasn't, like, that wasn't
It's all
presented
shade there.
to me. Yeah, and that area is
That
very
wasn't as a
shady.
huge, big
I
of a
agree with
concern
you.
as summer, like
Kids.
McGuire.
Right, I just find it, potential choking hazard or something, but.
Did, when you were talking to the vendors, did they ever consider maybe a 2 to 12 playground set? Like just to get, like, because some of the kids that are coming are pretty young still, it's still, it's.
Right, so I think within any 5 to 12 module, there are elements of it, the features that are
So it'd be 2 to 12 then?
Right, so it can cater to littler kids, except you can't call it that because it only goes by the designation of the most mature. I think just from a safety standpoint, little kids can certainly play there, but I think from our standpoint, we just address it as a 5 to 12.
So the signage
playground.
would say 5 to 12?
Yes, just so there's no confusion.
Got it. Okay, that's fair. So it's like if you decide to have your kid in the 5 to 12 area, the signage says it's.
Right, and so requires more supervision, it's kind of like maybe.
Yeah.
Right, so I think caretakers need to kind of be aware of that and just keep an eye out and it's not as like hands off as if it was a true 2 to 5.
Right.
So that's it for now, but
Great
maybe
job.
next month we'll have a lot more answers. I do have one question for the commission. I know we talked about Cherry Lawn just really will be up and running in June, which is great news. But working just like backdating from where we need to, or when things need to be ordered. Right now, I'm presented with 2 options because the installation, especially if we're going with the pour and play, it needs like drying time and it cannot be installed when it's cold or too cold. So the latest they can do it is October, or they have to do it next April. And of course you don't want like the playground to be installed and have it be like roped off because the surface is not in, and then so like it can't be used. So we would want to install right before the surface goes in. So is there any, like, I know we need to order everything before year end for the ARPA funding to, not expire, but is there any reason why we couldn't do it sooner and just have everything be done by October?
That would be pretty incredible.
The only concern I had was I wouldn't want it to be out of commission like over the summer.
It's just that the people that you're doing in October are probably ordered already by now. Like just
No,
because.
not. Apparently you can, like, as long as we can, if we can get everything ready, and have it be ordered by July 1, it can be done.
No, I think John wants us to spend that ARPA money as
Oh,
fast
yes.
as humanly possible.
Don't get confused about ARPA money. ARPA is just money, like town money. It's
our money.
It's
already been allocated to us.
With the additional feature that it needs to be spent in a short time frame. So if somebody loses ARPA funding in favor of this funding, it's not like they can't get funding elsewhere. It's just that for sure this project's going to get done. So if you have something that you can quantify and get to us, say for the 20th, so we can get that approved, that you could move forward, that would be great.
See, I thought we had the funding, so what specifically does she have to get approved?
Well, if there's something else that you needed to do, are you ready to go to order this now?
No,
but we were under the impression that in order to not lose the money, that we
Is this
at
already
least.
ARPA funded?
Yes,
Oh,
that we at
sure.
least had to
we're
have,
fine.
but that we.
Well, then go.
And I know you guys had conversations, like if projects aren't up and going,
No, I've been
you're gonna
clear
lose the
with
money, and then also that it
anybody-
needed to be spent by the end of the year, or that the
No,
ARPA funding
it needs to be
expired.
allocated by the end of encumbered by the end of 20.
So encumbered, so in theory, the
So
equipment.
she could do that with.
So if the equipment was ordered, that would include
That's
encumbering.
Invoiced and.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
So we do with John.
Yeah, if you can do that, that's great.
Okay, but we can do it sooner.
Yes, if that would be a record.
Right, so from the time when we decide on what we, like if the bids and everything has been approved by the commission, like how long do we then need to go back to the Board of Selectmen? Okay,
It's just us.
Not as long as we're within our budget.
okay. So that's good to
And we
know.
got an additional 10,000 that was allocated to install the swing set, and that had been hanging out there because we decided not to do it. because we were
Which
gonna do
Jim
it later.
has requested the selectmen office
And that's been
to
done.
transfer it to
That's been
our
done.
main budget. Yeah, so it's just one pot now.
That's been done.
Yeah.
Right. So that gives you that extra time.
Because I have been told that the vendors are less likely to want to install someone else's thing,
Okay.
even if it's like very new. And they said that like a swing set is basically like, with buying a new one and the labor is going to be less than 10,000. So it almost seems like it doesn't
You don't
matter.
have to use it. I mean, if it doesn't work out.
I would love to though.
Yeah, no, I'm saying if you'd like to, but if, as you're saying, if it,
So what part of the meeting next Thursday, I'm actually gonna take them to the transfer station to take a look.
Okay.
So they can see, you know, I mean, it's still like, I think the swings themselves would be like a $4,000 charge.
Right,
So if
and-
we can
yeah.
save that, that's great.
yeah, I didn't realize that there weren't until I saw those emails going by that it wasn't, there's no swings, that it's only the.
Well, the swing itself
Structure.
is easy. That's
No, I know,
very
but still,
easy.
but you have
But
to-
it's
we still have to buy
the
them.
framing.
Right.
But I don't know what installer is gonna want to install a framing that didn't come from them, I guess.
They wouldn't warranty it
They wouldn't
either.
want to because of the
No, they
liability
wouldn't,
issues.
no.
Right.
And they wouldn't warranty, I wouldn't, yeah, you're right, just even doing something that's not theirs, and I can't speak to it. The other thing that came up during the Board of Finance meeting was we got the funding for the fence, and they were afraid to jump on getting the fence removed, like repaired until they knew that you guys didn't have to do more mobilization that would require the removal of that fence.
I would agree with that, yeah.
So,
because
so you would say, wait until you
yeah,
start.
they might need the access from
Because
the.
there's a lot of trees and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like along the way. So when you talk to the vendors, just clarify that with them, because I think that'll help coordinate with.
Okay, sounds good.
I thought Jim's report talked about the Baker fence being done soon.
I just remember that being spoken at the Board of Finance meeting that I went to with Jim Farrell.
They were worried about it, but I thought that Jim came back and said that it wouldn't affect it. It would be-
But I don't, it sounds like Janet doesn't know
saying something
that.
different.
Doesn't sound like yes.
Yeah, and so I just want to make sure we're all together.
I'll check.
Do you mind? Because I think that would be very helpful.
Sure.
Playground, Baker Park. I swear it's in here.
Yeah.
The funding's approved,
Yeah,
but
it was.
the Board of Finance's concern was that it be done just in conjunction with the new playground, because if it's done too soon and it turns out we need to remove
Exactly.
the
That's what they
fence
said.
after
Yeah,
we
no, it's
put.
right here.
Right.
Yes. No, it's under highlights by Sandy Rich. The fence for Baker is scheduled to be replaced the week of May 6th.
Oh,
So,
Okay, but Susie's right, they did make that comment that they wanted both to be done at the same time.
or, and just with that consideration, if the vendors need to mobilize by removing the fence, why remove the new fence?
Yeah, we wouldn't want to do that.
So that's,
are we allowed to have no fence there for a few months?
no. It would
No,
be some
I don't
type of
think
thing, like if
that's-
they needed mobilization, you'd have to make that consideration of how that would be mobilized. Like-
So is it better to just not replace the fence yet?
Exactly, that's the point.
Yeah,
That was the
okay,
whole
not,
point.
you're not suggesting to replace the fence, but then make some kind of gate or something, right?
It just, yeah,
We
so,
should wait.
Yeah.
Cassie, can you, all right, I'll try to remember to email Sandy, but
we had talked about that too, right? I remember.
We can reach out, but I think there should be some clarifications made about the size of trucks and things that are gonna be moving
Okay.
stuff in and out of there because of the unique shape and landscape of Baker.
right.
Before you make a full determination of if that fence goes.
Yeah, because she just
before or after.
mentioned the retaining wall might need to be addressed, and that there's a lot of trees with a lot of root systems there, and that might impact the mobility. You know, it might be like two
The size of the
panels.
structure will make a difference too, though. If you don't get something that's too tall and giant, then that may make sense.
She's not there yet either, so she couldn't make that decision right now. anyway.
But, so I'm not sure we want to be doing that fence the week after next.
Yeah, it's just too premature given their big.
I can ask a high-level question just in terms of like,
Yeah.
you know, while we're on site next
Yeah.
Thursday, like.
But if we're not sure, we
if
should
they
hold- we should
envision
hold
whi-
off.
Which path do they envision take, you know, the installer would know.
Yeah, but he's doing it soon, so if he could hold off until you get that answer, it's better, right?
Oh, but because he's
Yeah.
gonna do it May 6th.
Yeah, and that's coming up.
Yeah, maybe just hold off,
Yeah,
at least for.
okay. I'll try to remember to email him, but Cassie, if you think about it. Thank you. Thanks for coming down. Okay, anything else for Janet?
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Last but not least, Jim,
Okay, great. So the advisory group's near-term solution recommending that temporary lines on one tennis court at Cherry Lawn, it's still the only near-term solution that we have. But I'm continuing to have conversations with various facilities and vendors regarding potential solutions. Given the importance of this project, I do think that we should hold off any future discussions until the new Parks and Rec director is in place, which is only a month away anyway, May 31st. And then we could reopen it and bring to her the projects we've been working on and, work it out with her. So that's where we are with that anyway. Okay?
Good. Okay. We have the Assistant Director's report. Hopefully you all had a take. I'll do the really quick pass through. We talked about Wheat Beach. The Pear Tree bathroom I already touched on is, for the most part, done. I think they've just got to put the partitions up, the light fixtures, etc. But I've seen pictures. I haven't been inside since the painting got done, so I'm very anxious to see how that looks. But based on the pictures, it looks terrific. We've talked about the playgrounds. I don't know if anybody got to see our new paddle tennis court before the lights, or it got dark out there. I don't know if they're still out there playing or not. I think it's dark. It looks terrific. It's really nice. It's really nice, and the netting is kind of higher, so I think it'll catch the balls from going into the woods. So it's great to have that done. I saw that the programming, the reservations was very, very strong again this season. We continue to have great, really good interest in all of the town's offerings and programs. And Cassie, you listed here a number of upcoming events that hopefully you all have taken a look at. But there's a lot of fun stuff on the docket for the town for the remainder of the year. So I think that is it. And then Sandy included his list of the different maintenance projects. This is their really, really busy time of year getting all the fields ready for play. So those guys are really, really active right now, but as always they do.
Yeah, we should thank the staff because you guys have done an amazing job as you're changing different directors.
Looks great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's been, with the vacancy created by Pam's departure and then Tamara being out on maternity leave. I think they're down from 4 full-time people to 2, and it's been a lot, but you guys have kept things going. So thank you very much. Okay.
And Lori, I know you touched on the Pear Tree's bathroom project. The latest is that the plumbing's now done.
Okay.
Partitions go in tomorrow. Everything should be wrapped up by next week.
Nice.
Thank
So
you.
ready
Nice.
to open up May 1st.
And they open May 1st.
May 1st to open up.
We'll have our first selectman in his...
Are you going to do a ribbon cutting in the bathroom?
It might actually be this suit. I don't know.
Do you go to the beach in your suit?
For him, I would.
Yeah, but I think everybody's going to be really impressed with how clean it looks. I'm impressed with the paint job that Mike did. And again, going back to what Kathy was saying, really, Sandy and his team have done an incredible job stepping in and really getting that thing in shape, getting the bathrooms in shape and the whole building ready. So, Mike's done a great job with the paint.
Yeah, our parks crew is just amazing. I feel like anything and everything we ask them, could you just that, whatever, they just somehow figure out how to get it done for us. And they do beautiful work. It's just, I just think the parks are showing so well. I don't know if it's in the report, but they did the plantings over at McGuan. We redid the patio, and that long planters full of nice little green bushes now. You would know what kind there are, I don't know, my plants. And then the 3 big tree planters each have one nice tree. It looks like maybe 2 are cherries. I see there's tiny little pink buds coming out.
It's a red bud.
It's a red bud? Okay, and then some little low plants in the planter, so it's gonna look the patio looks great. The bathrooms were redone and the crew got that all planted and ready to go for baseball season. So I was over at McGuan yesterday. It's looking, and it was busy. It was really busy, so it's looking good. Okay, my update, and we'll be able to wrap up. First is the update on the spinner at McGuan. Had a lot of conversations about this last week with both John Hollerbeck, and then finally found my way to the VP of sales of the whole Miracle equipment. playground manufacturer. We talked as of yesterday, we're looking at different alternatives. They understood we needed a definitive answer, and just before coming over here tonight, I heard from Mike that we will have a new spinner next week.
Oh, good. Good job, Lori. Yeah.
Anyway, so we got to work out the details of exactly when. They thought they found a replacement for just the plate that was in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. They were testing it. That was like at 4 o'clock. But then at 5:30 said, no, we've got a new unit, you're getting a new unit. So the tricky part is that Miracle doesn't manufacture this specific piece of equipment. It's manufactured by a company in England, and that just seemed to complicate things. This particular spinner, as Susan knows, is very unique in that it's really one of the few, if the only spinner out there where a child in a wheelchair or whatever can directly go onto the spinner and ride with everybody else. As John told me, there's another alternative that has, seats that are, considered handicap accessible seats, but a child would still have to be removed from their wheelchair and, placed by the parent or guardian onto the unit. So this is just, it's very unique in that way. And so that was our hope to keep with it. If we couldn't resolve it, then we would have had to go back in the commission and say, do we want to switch to a different kind of spinner? But it sounds like we're going to be able to get that maintained, and that was really important to us to have that accessible piece of equipment. And it just turns out, as John explained, that our particular plate had a manufacturing defect, and it's apparently is not perfectly round. So the hole that was cut and everything is perfectly round, but it's just not quite perfectly round. So that's why, as it rotated, the gap was getting bigger and smaller, which created the risk of pinching, which was what the issue was there. So it's taken longer than we had hoped, but after some fairly firm phone calls in the last few days, but we should have resolution next week. So I will. Susan and I will keep a tight eye on that. We did have some vandalism here at Weed Beach. Laura Mosier, who in addition to being one of our master gardeners, also volunteers in the book aid and replenishes our little library. And when she came down here last Monday, the whole little library had been spray painted inside and out. A few of the books had been spray painted as well. Again, Sandy and his crack crew, 24 hours, they had it cleaned up, sanded, restained, and I don't know if they replaced the plexiglass or got it cleaned, but they did take care of it. But that was very disappointing because that's been a very popular feature. That did prompt me to reach out to our police chief. As you know, we have a new chief in town. Last year I worked with Chief Anderson to ask that we get additional foot coverage going into prom season and the summer season. The police come and lock the gate here every night at 10 o'clock. But people clearly know how to get in through Noroton Bay is one obvious thing. People just walk down into the bay and onto the beach. So I have asked that as that season picks up, that we really need police presence to come in after the 10 o'clock, park, walk around. And I did hear back from him promptly, and he did commit to me that they would increase the presence down here. Susan and I saw it when we were down here earlier this week with the staff, just beer cans on that end, the short lane end as we call it, just beer cans everywhere. We see evidence of fires, we see evidence of drug paraphernalia. Last summer, one of our gift benches was up on the roof of the bathhouse, which is so dangerous. How they did that, I don't know, but those things are so heavy. God forbid that had fallen on somebody. So we really do need that support of that. So I want to let you know that I had done that. The Great Island update. I think you've all heard that there were no bids for the road, so the property will be foot traffic only again this summer, which is going to put pressure on the parking at Pear Tree, because that is really the only parking, other than a few of the side streets that aren't marked no parking. So we're going to really have to monitor that closely in terms of whether that hits capacity. And the right turn only sign it's not there now, but should be replaced soon, with the idea is it would it should minimize, the traffic flowing between the entrance of the beach and the entrance to Rhode Island, because it's really not a great, as you all know, it's not a great pedestrian street by any stretch of the imagination. But that's really our only solution. We narrowed our field of potential master planners down to 4. We're reviewing the RFPs now, and interviews will take place next week on the 1st and 2nd, 2 each night.
Quick question, with Great Island, the foot traffic only because of the, no road for cars, are they going to allow people with bikes? Or?
Not as of now.
Okay.
As of now.
That's probably the, in another way that you could alleviate some of that issue.
What about dogs on leash?
Not at this time.
I knew that.
Not at this time. The rules that were established a couple of months ago are going to stay in place for at least the near term. And so, the committee did speak about that, and we had, some conversation now that boating season is opening and having to be concerned about, people accessing from the water.
Are there bike racks at the entrance?
Yes, there's one, and a second was going to be added.
Yeah, it's pretty limited though. I mean, you could get a bike there, but we don't have a lot of places actually to put them.
If you could, consider that, I think that would help, especially since parking is going to be at Pear Tree again, and with the weather being so nice, it's just nice to, even if it's to ride down there and then park your bike safely and then do the loop and come back.
Yeah, it's been talked about. I'm sure there's one down there, but there's really nowhere on the property to put it, so the one there, I believe, is across the street. That sort of little dirt area where the
right at the end of
historical sign is. It's kind of, they're kind of there.
Can't you put one right inside the gate? There's a grassy area there. I thought I saw people put stuff there.
Wasn't there an issue about putting, I don't think there is one inside. I think there was an issue about putting one
I saw
inside the
people leave
gate.
their bikes there, I think.
But they're not
Yeah, they might
supposed
be
to be.
leaving their bikes, but
They're not supposed to be.
Okay, so it'll be where you just said, around the bridge. Okay.
So that's on Great Island. Of course, you guys can go back and watch the full meetings, but that's the sort of cliff notes of what's going on. And the most immediate concern to us, of course, is that we're really going to have to monitor Pear Tree. It should be obviously, but at the meeting I did clarify for sort of public consumption that if someone is going to Great Island but parking at Pear Tree, they still need a parking sticker because it is a parking sticker. It's not a Pear Tree. People just think it is like the cost to go to the beach, but it's really for the parking. So we'll need to make sure that the guards, when they start, enforce that, and that people don't try that, because we did have that one incident last summer where someone was going as a guest of someone else's to the boat club, and they were quite insistent that they didn't need a beach sticker because they were somebody, and then it got a little unpleasant with our gate guard.
How are we looking on beach permit sales?
I don't know. Cassie, do you know?
We're about where we typically are. We're a little bit slower than behind. We have another email going out this week to encourage residents to get their beach passes. You do have to get your beach pass now if you want to come to Wheat Beach. Pear Tree's Memorial Day weekend, so we just encourage everyone to get them as soon as possible, because if they go in the mail, it takes up to 10 business days, and sometimes it could take 2 to 3 weeks.
Wheat Beach started already?
Yes.
The guards here?
But last year's sticker is still good until May 31st. But you do need to have a sticker as of now. Yeah, they're here. They're definitely here. In that ratty old gatehouse that's not getting replaced.
Yeah, the new security company's great too.
Oh, is it?
We haven't had any issues so far, they're great.
Good. Coastal Commission meeting, some of their conversation also was around immediate safety concerns at Great Island. They have a cleanup day planned. They do that every year. I think it's the second Saturday in May was the one that was settled on. And they're going to start at Pear Tree Point Beach, do some cleanup there, and then they usually work upriver. But definitely some work cleanup will get done at Pear Tree as well. So we appreciate that.
I'm sorry, who's doing the cleanup?
Members of our advisory commission on coastal waters. They like to do, been doing cleanup days for the last year.
So with the scouts?
No, it's just the members of just the appointed individuals. And our Eagle project to dig up the mugwort and plant new beach grass is this weekend. We're, Susan, Saturday afternoon starting at...
3 to 6.
Oh, not till 3. Okay.
Yeah, because they have a camp out that they have to go to and they're coming back later. And so they're going to start at 3 and then do all day Saturday.
All day Sunday.
Sunday, I meant.
All day Sunday starting at...
all day Sunday. 8 o'clock, I believe. I have it down here somewhere. Anyway, we've been publicizing it with all the different...
Okay, so...
Volunteers needed.
Huh?
And volunteers are needed. Yes. So if any of you guys can come and give a few hours, I will be down here with my favorite implement, my weed digger.
I sent it to the commission.
Weeds.
We apparently bought all the beach grass available on the eastern seaboard. I was told by another landscape designer. He's like, I think, are you the people that bought all the beach grass? I'm like, I guess we did.
But yeah, that's a really exciting project, but there's a lot of mugwort to be dug up, so.
Oh, yeah, plenty.
You guys have a few hours to come down and help, that would be terrific. We didn't have, I wanted to mention, we didn't have a virtual option tonight. We will be meeting here at the Hut now through September, our monthly meeting. We shift down here in the summer. I guess there's no internet or no working internet, but tech is gonna supposedly work on that for next month so that, you know, if we want to have hybrid meetings, we can do that. But we didn't have it up and ready for tonight. And then I did email you, but just to announce publicly, we have hired a new director. She'll be starting the Tuesday after Memorial Day. Her name is Jennifer Theba. She is coming from the town of Westport, where she's currently the director of Parks and Rec. I thought she was a really impressive candidate. Comes with a lot of really good background. She's done both capital projects, you know, programming. She also has an MBA, so she comes with a really nice business sense and has a lot of thoughts about how to think about pricing programs and understanding the costs of delivery. So I'm very excited to have her joining us. I think she's going to be just awesome.
She lives in this area?
She lives in Bethel, so, you know, still a little bit of a hike, but, you know, she's been doing the commute to Westport, so she knows what she's getting into. Anything you want to add? You guys,
No,
you interviewed her twice, I think.
Yeah, we talked to her, we did talk to her twice. She's many years of experience. She is well-known throughout the Parks and Rec director business, if you will. She spent 9 years as director of Parks and Rec in Westport. That's a bigger town with more stuff like a municipal golf course and a marina and stuff we don't have. And she's just a first-class professional, and she's going to bring a lot of not just energy but dedication to this job. So, like Jim's comment about waiting a bit on pickleball to kind of get her up to speed and get her energized on that particular topic, first class. It's going to be great.
I think it's going to be really good, really good. So I will look forward to introducing her to you at our June meeting. She'll be here for the June meeting. So we have to muddle through May, but she'll be here soon enough, and I think she's going to be worth waiting for. And I think she and Jim Coughlin will work really, really nicely together. I think that they're going to be a real dynamic duo too. Between the, you know, both of their depth of expertise, I think is going to be really great, highly complimentary. Good. And that's it. Adele covered the budget updates for us, so that is
I have a quick question.
all I've got. Yes.
I saw something this week, I forget where I read it, but that we're going to have 4 summer concerts sponsored by Corbin District at Tilly Pond. Is that correct?
Yes, so Baywater Properties typically would do some concerts at Tilly Pond in the past. Because they have their beach, or because they have so much construction going on their property, Parks and Rec has partnered with them to assist with some of the planning and implementation of those programs. So it helps me while we don't have a director at this point in time. We're going to be down a event seasonal position this summer. So I kind of made the executive decision that I just did not have the manpower to run as many events, so it kind of just folded together, and so we'll have 4 events at Tilly this year where we'll be partnering with them.
That would be nice. Will that be replacing the Friday night concerts that we have usually during the summer at Corbin?
So this year so far we have the luau planned again for August 23rd. We haven't yet put anything in place yet to do the Pear Tree Jazz Dinner. or the other Friday night dinner or Friday night concert that we did here during the Stanford fireworks. I just wanted to kind of really assess everything prior to having a new director in and just really get a better grasp of all the events and things for town.
No, I was just wondering, like on Friday nights, we would have the concerts down at Corbin.
Corbin, it used to be
last couple
back
of
where the
years.
fountain is.
Where the fountain is.
What they called it, what just, it was Corbin Summer District Summer
So
Nights or
this, I
something.
do believe, yes, is replacing.
Replacing
Because
that.
the new restaurant is going in there and we'll have a majority of that space.
Okay, so that's why we're having the 4 till, great.
Which is, it's always, I mean, it's so lovely.
Yeah, it is.
It's such a pretty park. I think it's an underappreciated park. It's really nice, very peaceful, so, good. Okay, any more questions? Otherwise, I think we're ready to call for a motion to adjourn.
Yes, do so.
Thank you, Mary. Susan, second? Okay, all in favor?
Thank you.